What if the reason you feel stuck isn't because you're not trying hard enough, but because you're disconnected from the source? What if real growth doesn't come from pushing harder, but from staying connected longer? And what if the life you're searching for is already flowing, but you're just not rooted in it? There's something deeply human about wanting to grow, to become better, stronger, more fulfilled. We set goals, we make plans, we push ourselves to improve. And yet, sometimes, no matter how much effort we put in, something still feels missing, like we're trying, but not truly thriving. In John chapter 15, Jesus speaks directly into that tension. He doesn't give a list of steps, he doesn't offer a strategy. Instead, he gives a picture. I am the true vine and my Father is the gardener. It's simple, but it carries meaning that goes far beyond the surface. A vine, branches, a gardener. This is not just about plants, it's about life, connection, dependence. Jesus continues, he cuts off every branch in me that bears no fruit, while every branch that does bear fruit, he prunes so that it will be even more fruitful. At first, that might sound harsh, cutting off, pruning, but there's purpose behind it. Because growth is not just about adding more. Sometimes it's about removing what's not helping. Pruning is not punishment, it's preparation. It's the careful process of cutting back what hinders, so that something stronger can grow. And if we're honest, that's not always comfortable, because we don't always want things taken away, even if they're not helping us, even if they're holding us back. But the gardener sees what we don't. He knows what leads to life and what doesn't. Then Jesus says something that shifts the focus. You are already clean because of the word I have spoken to you. There is reassurance here, a reminder that this is not about starting from nothing. Something has already begun, something is already at work. But then comes the central message. Remain in me as I also remain in you. Remain, stay, abide. This is the key. Not striving, not forcing, remaining. No branch can bear fruit by itself. It must remain in the vine. It's a simple truth. A branch disconnected from the vine cannot produce anything, no matter how much effort it puts in, no matter how much it wants to grow. Without connection, there is no life. Neither can you bear fruit unless you remain in me. That's the heart of it. Growth is not just about effort, it's about connection. I am the vine, you are the branches. Jesus makes it clear. The source of life is not within us alone, it flows from him. If you remain in me and I in you, you will bear much fruit. Apart from me, you can do nothing. That line can feel strong, nothing. But it's not meant to discourage, it's meant to clarify. Because sometimes we try to build a life on our own strength, our own ideas, our own control. And we wonder why it feels empty, why it doesn't last, why it doesn't fully satisfy. It's like trying to grow fruit without a root, without connection. Jesus is not saying you can't do anything at all. He's saying that lasting, meaningful, life-giving fruit comes from staying connected to him. If you do not remain in me, you are like a branch that is thrown away and withers. It's not immediate, it's gradual. Withering doesn't happen all at once. It happens slowly, quietly. A loss of life, a fading of vitality. And maybe that's something we've felt at times, not a sudden collapse, but a slow drift, a loss of clarity, a sense that something is missing. But then Jesus brings it back to hope. If you remain in me and my words remain in you, ask whatever you wish and it will be done for you. This is not about getting everything we want, it's about alignment. When we are connected to the vine, our desires begin to reflect his. Our perspective begins to shift. This is to my Father's glory, that you bear much fruit, showing yourselves to be my disciples. Fruit is not just for us. It reflects something greater. It reveals where we are connected. As the Father has loved me, so have I loved you. Now remain in my love. There it is again. Remain. Not just in connection, but in love, because this is not about rules. It's about relationship. If you keep my commands, you will remain in my love, just as I have kept my Father's commands and remain in his love. Love and obedience are connected, not as obligation, but as response. When we are connected to love, we begin to live it out. I have told you this so that my joy may be in you and that your joy may be complete. Joy, not temporary happiness, but something deeper, something that comes from being rooted in the right place. My command is this: love each other as I have loved you. It comes back to love, always, but not just any love, as I have loved you. A love that gives, a love that sacrifices, a love that stays. Greater love has no one than this, to lay down one's life for one's friends. This is not just theory. This is what Jesus is about to do. He is not just teaching love, he is living it. You are my friends if you do what I command. Friendship with Jesus. Not distant, not formal, personal. I no longer call you servants, instead I have called you friends. There is a shift here from duty to relationship, from obligation to connection. For everything that I learned from my Father I have made known to you. Nothing hidden, nothing held back. You did not choose me, but I chose you and appointed you so that you might go and bear fruit, fruit that will last. There is purpose in this connection, not just for now, but for something lasting. And so that whatever you ask in my name, the Father will give you. Again, alignment, connection, purpose. This is my command. Love each other. It begins with love. It continues with love. It ends with love. And maybe that's where this message meets us most directly, because we live in a world that often tells us to do more, be more, achieve more, push harder, try again. And while effort has its place, Jesus offers something different. Not less effort, but a different foundation. Remain, stay connected, because without that, everything else becomes exhausting. And maybe that's why some of us feel tired, not because we're not trying, but because we're trying without being rooted, trying without staying connected to the source, trying to produce fruit without the vine. But what would it look like to live differently? To start not with effort, but with connection. To focus not on doing more, but on staying rooted. It doesn't have to be complicated. Remaining can look like taking a moment to pause instead of rushing, listening instead of always speaking, reflecting instead of reacting, choosing to stay connected, even in small ways. Because connection is not built in one moment. It's built over time, through consistency, through awareness, through intention. And the more we remain, the more something begins to change. Not always quickly, not always visibly, but deeply. Roots grow before fruit appears. And sometimes what feels like stillness is actually growth. Hidden, but real. And maybe that's where you are right now. In a season that doesn't feel productive, that doesn't feel visible, that doesn't feel like progress, but maybe something is being formed beneath the surface, something that will eventually show. Because when you are connected to the vine, growth is not a question of if, it's a matter of time. And it won't just be any kind of growth. It will be fruit that lasts. Not temporary success, not surface level change, but something deeper, more meaningful, more lasting, because it comes from the source of life itself. So the question is not just what am I doing, but what am I connected to? Because that will shape everything. Your thoughts, your actions, your direction, your growth. And maybe today the invitation is simple, not to do more, not to fix everything, but to remain, to reconnect, to stay. Because you were never meant to grow on your own. You were meant to be connected. And from that connection, life flows. Thank you for taking this time to reflect on this powerful message. If this spoke to your heart, don't forget to like the video, follow the channel for more reflections like this, and share this message with someone who might need encouragement today.